Hi everyone, my name's Sean Doyle. I'm the COO of Swapit. It's my pleasure to be able to talk to you all today from the Swapit headquarters. Just a little bit about myself. I've predominantly worked in the technology sector now for over 20 years. For working for organisations names that you'd all be familiar with, like IBM, Symantec, Microsoft, and so that's kind of where my leaning has come to the introductions within Swapit. My job here today is to talk about one of the topics to help bring us all up to speed and bring the education around some of this crypto world. Obviously, it's quite a world which is it's got a lot of vernacular and a lot of words around it. So my job is to help bring some of that education through for you. Please, when we're talking about this, don't get too stressed out if you don't grasp it all in the first run. But hopefully, you can watch this back again and again to really be able to handle some of the concepts that we're talking about. So DeFi stands for decentralized financial exchange. So that's different to something that we will refer to a bit later is CeFi and some of the traditional institutions that you would all be familiar with. But DeFi itself is an open finance movement which is now capable of delivering many of the same applications that you would see from traditional banking facilities that are out there. What is decentralized finance? So decentralized or DeFi, as you'll hear us refer to it, is a global alternative to every financial service that you use today. And that's all accessible with a smartphone or an internet connection. And this is really the difference in how it differs from the traditional institutions that we've been used to, which we refer to as CeFi, so centralized financial institutions. It doesn't take much of a historian to know and to witness events over the past few decades to know that those institutions have been fraught with issues. If you think about HSBC and what happened there in the Colombians, JP Morgan and their involvement with the Malaysia 1MDB fund, you would know that there's a lot of questions and concerns around those institutions right now. DeFi has been born out of the frustration of those institutions to be able to really deliver on a different set of guidelines and oversight, which we're not getting right now from the centralized exchanges. So when we're talking about decentralized finance, I'd really like you to get your head around the three principles which it works and operates on, and I'll describe them all in detail. And those three are the blockchain, smart contracts, and cryptography. So when we talk about blockchain, it's really a distributed ledger across thousands and thousands of servers working on a peer-to-peer network. So for any of you, just to give you some things that you might be able to frame some references around, if you've ever used a product like Napster, like LimeWire, like BitTorrent, you would know that those are peer-to-peer, but that technology and the storage would actually be sitting on your PC. The difference here is that it's sitting distributed across thousands of servers across the globe. And the real benefit about the blockchain is it can be viewed and audited in real time. So again, when we're talking about where this has been born from, if we think about that level of auditability or the lack of auditability and oversight right now, which doesn't exist with the centralized finance exchanges, one of the real benefits of the blockchain is being able to view it and to view it openly. The second part to talk about was around smart contracts. The easiest way to think about those is within the title, so a smart version of a contract, which basically is an automated contract which works on the principles of if and then to deliver on the contract itself. The easiest example that I can walk you through so you understand that as a concept is think about a vending machine. The purpose of the vending machine is to sell those products based on a certain price. So if, for example, you go along and you want to buy a can of Coke, for example, for $2, if you put $1 into that machine and press E2, you won't get the can of Coke, because the principle of the vending machine is that you need to give either $2 to get the Coke, or alternatively what will happen is you'll get your money back. So that's a contract essentially which is running within the vending machine to work on the if-then principles to deliver on that contract. And the last part that I mentioned there as well was around cryptography. Without going into too much detail, cryptography is a secure communication. So everything that's happening around the DeFi movement is all done in a secure manner, secure communication and secure movement. So what differentiates the DeFi and DApps we'll talk to a little bit later, but it's think about the DApps as the applications which are now utilizing these smart contracts. So now we're seeing some of the DApps that are out there perform exactly the same functions that you'd traditionally like to see from finance applications. So they're moving into insurance, lending, borrowing, derivatives, those sorts of things. These DApps now are starting to function to achieve the same functionality that we would see from the CeFi movement. As we mentioned, that the code is completely transparent on the blockchain for anybody to audit at any point in time. So this builds a different kind of trust with users. And these DApps are designed to be global from day one, whether you're in London, Tanzania or Seoul. You have access to the same DeFi services and networks. And to wrap things up, DeFi is now one of the fastest growing sectors in crypto. Industry observers measure traction with a unique metric called Ether locked in DeFi. And as of today, users have deposited over $38 billion worth of crypto into these smart contracts. So just as I wrap up here, just to refer back to the content that we've covered, we've talked about DeFi and how that's different to the CeFi traditional institutions that we've been used to dealing with. And we talked about the three principles that the DeFi works on, so blockchain, smart contracts and cryptography. We talked about those three different examples of Napster, LimeWire, BitTorrent on blockchain. We spoke about the vending machine example as well. So hopefully that's helped bring you up a little bit of speed, certainly around some of that terminology, and when we're talking through DeFi you've got some of those examples to walk through. So thanks again for all of your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the future.